want to go over again. This is the start of quarter two. It's kind of like a fresh start. So that's, that can be refreshing. Go ahead, type in the chat. How do we feel about this cold weather? How are we feeling so far? Do we like it? Do we like the snow, the cold? Are we already sick of it? I think we had a pretty long stretch of nice weather, so I can't complain too much. But it definitely got colder, that's for sure. Definitely can be hard to drive. Slow down. Slow down, that is for sure. So as we kind of dig into stuff that we had going on, here, let me get our page pulled up. Wanted to talk about what we did last week. Again, last week was a short week, so it was a little bit different, which is okay. I asked you to do the IXL diagnostic. Again, this is my first time using the IXL diagnostic feature. I know it was a little bit tricky. If you ran into like a glitching screen, you just got to log out, wait a little bit, try again. I think it's really an IXL problem. It's not really anything that like Mr. Larson can do. But I would like you, if you haven't finished that, and again, I am going to share who's finished it because I would really like you to finish that. So again, I've got two sections of, there it is. Okay, so again, if you've started it, but you haven't finished it, these two have started, these people haven't even started. Let's go ahead, try our best to do that. Same with this group over here, okay? These three and these four haven't. So please, please, please work on getting that done. It's useful information, I believe, and it can be helpful. We'll probably use it, a little bit throughout the year, and then also try to retest maybe at the end of the year, see how things have changed. One, again, logistical thing I want to talk about. I started recounting the weeks. So instead of saying like quarter two, week 11 or something like that, I restarted counting. So last week was quarter two, week 1. This week, quarter two, week 2. I don't want that to be confusing. Again, that's also on the pacing guide. So if we look at our pacing guide, again, I deleted the old stuff. So you don't have to scroll down as far. This is where it starts. Right here was last week. This was this week. So again, that's designed to try to help you a little bit, so you don't have to, scroll through a bunch of pages to get to what you're looking at. Okay. Other than that, let's go ahead. We talked, again, if we look at what we did this week, we had some different factoring things, broke up the lesson into a couple different parts. Again, these can be tricky, but once you get the hang of them, they aren't necessarily as difficult. It really kind of takes something called number sense. So again, if we can think about factors and we can think about what numbers can go together, that's the type of thinking that we're trying to get. So broke it up into a couple different parts. You got a lesson. We've got some IXL to practice before you take your quiz. So again, I know that we started unit 4 in quarter 1, but this is stuff that we've only done in quarter 2 so far. All right. I'm going to share my notes. So again, if you've got something to write with, hopefully piece of paper, writing utensil, something like that. My Apple Pencil did die on me last Class Connect, so I've been trying to frantically charge it. We will see if it lasts throughout the rest of this. Come on, connect, 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 connect. There it goes. So when we're factoring quadratics, which is really what we're kind of looking at, we've got a couple things. So again, we talk about it, the kind of generic way is ax squared plus bx plus c. And we really got to look at, okay, when I break it down into my factors, again, I've got maybe I'm going to have some different things in here. Here. Like x plus k, x plus h, whatever it may be, I'm going to need my two numbers to multiply to equal this, okay? And so that's kind of what, again, what am I trying to think? It'll make more sense when we get into an example, but I'm trying to think about what can multiply to get c. And again, that would be from my k and my h. But I also have to be conscious if this is not 1. Because if this is not 1, then I may have to have other numbers inside of here, which again will then affect my C value because I'll be adding or I'll be multiplying by more. So instead of talking in generalities, let's do an example. Let's say 18x squared minus 39x plus 20. So again, really what I'm trying to think of is, okay, I need to come up with two numbers that are going to multiply and get 20, positive 20. So again, in my head, I'm thinking, all right, 2 times 10, 1 times 20, 4 times 5. Those are going to be my possibilities. But I also have got this number out here, 18. So now again, I have to think, 2 times 9, 1 times 18, 3 times 6. Those are going to be sort of my my options as I try to break it up into my factor. So again, it's going to be something like this. So right off the bat, okay, again, I'm thinking 1 times 20, 4 times 5, whatever you decide to pick, it's got to be positive. And the only way to get positive is to do either a negative times a negative or a positive times a positive. So I'm going to choose -4 and -5. -4 times -5 gives me 20. And now I have to think, okay, about 3x and 6x, which one goes where? All in all, I need them to add up to have -39x's. So that's why I kind of chose this number to be negative, because this right here is -39x. So I'm going to choose 6 and 3. And again, just because I think, somehow multiplying, it may be a little bit of a guess and check. Again, that's where our number sense comes in. I'm going to plug in a 6x here and a 3x here. So as I go through and FOIL, and I'm going to say 6x times 3x, 6x times -5, I'm going to do all this stuff and see if I get the correct answer. So I got 18x squared. So far, so good. -30x, -12x plus 20. So far, so good. When I combine this, I get -42x, and I say, hey, this actually doesn't equal -39x. So I could either try some different numbers, or what I'm going to choose to do is swap my 6x and my 3x. I'm going to trade places and see if that's going to make a difference with my problem. Now when I multiply, I still get 18x squared. I get -15x, -24x, and this is +20. When I combine these two, I get 18x squared minus 39x plus 20. So the correct answer was actually when I flip-flopped them. So I can always check. I can always double check to see what I need. And then another technique that we focused on is called difference of squares. And I can see it's getting a little blurry because it's getting tired. Difference of squares only work when you have two terms. So again, my middle term, and I'll show you what I mean, is crossed out. So see how up here we said ax squared plus bx plus c? This bx term has to disappear, and we've got to have a subtraction sign right here. And we'll explain why. So I think, okay, what numbers can I really break this up? 36 is a perfect square number. So I know that that's 6 times 6. And x times x is just x squared. So that's good. And again, the only way to get a negative number is to do a positive minus a negative. So I could do 6x minus 1, and I could do 6x plus 1. when I FOIL this out, when I FOIL it out, I'm going to get 36x squared plus 6x minus 6x and get that -1. These cancel out. That's why we alternate our sign. This is negative, this is plus, because we want them to cancel out and we want this number to be negative. Slightly different way to use sort of this sort of square root idea is we may get something like, let me make sure I've got it right. Okay, 9r squared minus 5 equals 607. So again, I want you to maybe take 30 seconds, try this on your own. Try to figure out how would you solve 9r squared minus 5 equals 607. Again, if my goal is to get r by itself, add 5 on both sides, 9r squared equals 612. Now I'm going to think again, I think I want to divide by 9. I think I want to divide by 9 and get r squared equals 68. And now this is where I get into a little bit of a sticking point because I got to say, r squared equals 68. That's not a perfect square number, but are there any factors of 68 that are? And so again, 1 times 68, 2 times 34. Hey, 4 times 17 actually equals 68. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the square root on the left, the square root on the right. And again, anytime you take a square root, you need the positive and the negative number. Because we just talked about multiplying by 2 positives could give you the answer, or multiplying by 2 negatives could get you the answer. And this time I'm going to rewrite this as 4 times 17. Which if we remember our rules, we can split this up like this. And we know that the square root of 4 is 2. So what are my answers? Positive or negative 2 square root 17. So r has a positive and a negative. Real quick, okay, if we get one of these square roots of a negative number, this is called an imaginary number. We're not quite there yet. So we're going to call it no real solution. There is a solution. It involves the imaginary numbers. So again, imaginary versus real. The real number system, you cannot take a square root of a negative. So you'll definitely get into that in pre-calc. I know my pre-calc class just kind of covered it very recently. Last example before you get a lot of practice on your own. Okay, so this one, because I see that I've got, I don't have a perfect square number, but I see that I've got factors of 5. So sometimes you may want to try to factor things out first. So for example, I'm going to take out a 5 here. I'm going to take out a 5 here. So 180 divided by 5. Let's see here, what's that going to give me? Having a brain fart right now. 36. 36 m squared minus 1. And again, I've still got this factor of 5 out here. Now I can break this apart. 36, I like that number because that gives me 6 times m minus 1, and it gives me 6 times m plus 1. Again, alternating these right here so that I get that middle term to drop out. So again, things to look at. Can you factor out things? Can you find square roots? Those are sort of tips and tricks as we are working through these to try to solve. All right. let's get some practice. So I'm going to, once I get it pulled up, there it is, right at the top. I'm going to post a link in the chat, and I'm going to charge my pencil. There's your link. Go ahead, click on that. All right. Let's go ahead, click that. If you're watching the recording, I'm going to share my screen. You can pause it, watch it on your own, try it, hit the play button, keep going. About one more minute. Try to finish up. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Again, hopefully you got some good practice. I know these can be tricky and I know you may not have finished. They sometimes can take a lot of time. That's all right. Let's maybe look at one or two together. 5 or 8. 5 or 8. All right, let's look at number 8. So that one is there it goes. All right, come on, share. What are the solutions to, oops, let's say x plus 3 squared minus 13 equals 0. So the first step, again, if I'm trying to isolate, I need to get rid of this 13 on both sides. So I'm left with x plus 3 squared equals 13. To undo my square, I got a square root. And I'm left with x plus 3 equals positive or negative square root 13. And then I need to subtract 3 on both sides. So one answer is, and again, the answer choices flipped them, so that's totally fine. Negative 3 plus square root 13. And then the other answer is negative 3 minus square root 13. So that was just one commonly missed question that I wanted to go over. If we jump to Schoology, and again, it's my expectation that everybody does the Class Connect assignment. And again, we'll talk about it and I'll help you set them up. But I'm not necessarily going to tell you the answers to these. Again, I want you to have to do some thinking because I know that people sometimes just fast forward to the answers. So I want you to actually do it. So if we look at this assignment, again, you can find it right on Schoology. It's going to load. I think the weather, everyone's having slow internet, it seems like. Solve using the square root method, very similar to what we just did. Again, isolate x. So subtract 14. How do you undo 1/3? Well, to undo 1/3, you need to multiply by 3. So subtract 14, multiply by 3, and then take the square root of x. Remember, you should get 2 answers. Again, for this factor, again, thinking, all right, if I need the two numbers to multiply to get a positive 10, and I need I need to somehow get a 6x squared here. So again, try to play around with the numbers. Make sure your x's add up to negative 16x, and you should be good. What I will do is I will share next week's work. Again, it is a short week next week. There is only 2 days of school, so I'm going to publish it right now. If you want to, if you're traveling or if you want to get a head start because you want to enjoy fall break, it's going to be one lesson and an assignment. Okay, so again, download this operation or download this and then complete it. It's either the odds or the evens. So no, you do not have to do the whole thing. Either do the odds or do the evens, and that's all I'm asking you to do for next week. Questions, concerns, comments? All right. Have a great rest of your day. and a good fall break. And we will see each other in 2 weeks from now.